It's time for today's Face-Off on Fox Soul. Challengers Quan LX and Big Angry Adams ready to go blow by blow on those hot topics. Face-Off on Fox Soul starts right now. In this round, here's Quan LX.
Charles, brother Dave Chapelle, one of the greatest comedians alive to this day. In fact, is a living legend in many eyes in the world of comedic satire and comedic comedy and stand-up comedy. Brother Chapelle is in hot water again because he's just did another stand-up show where he was doubling down on some transgendered comments, still poking fun, making jokes about transgendered people. And he said some other jokes that made some people feel uncomfortable. My problem with it is, Charles, it's comedy. I remember the time when Richard Pryor would poke fun of everybody, white people, black people, Christians, Muslims, everybody, gay, straight. I remember the time when Richard Pryor and other comedians like him, Eddie Murphy and them, were given the rein to entertain us. Political correctness was never to be applied in the field of comedian stand-up comedy or in comedy, period. But now we want everybody to be happy. We don't want to offend anybody. We don't want to insult anybody. We don't want to anger anybody. So we can't roast and toast any particular group anymore in comedy without offending them or being quote-unquote canceled. I support Dave Chapelle. Chapelle said some things he should have said. I enjoy his comedy, and I'm sure I'll enjoy his show. But it's time that we stop canceling people in comedy, comedians, strictly for cracking jokes and making us all laugh.
So when Michael Richards, the actor that played Kramer on Seinfeld, was at the Comedy Store and he began shouting the N-word, right? He's not African.
I remember.
Do you think he should have got a pass on that, or do you think he
Nope,
should have been canceled?
he should have been punished.
Okay.
Because what you did not say is he got into a heckling argument with an African American.
But that's part of comedy.
African Americans.
But that's part of comedy.
But he got upset that they was poking fun of him, and they were not using racial tropes toward him, and he just started yelling nigger, 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 because he got upset with an argument. So that argument brought out of him on a stand-up comedy stage what was really in him, which was racism.
Okay, I don't disagree that he should have been canceled and punished over it. I think it was repugnant. But the truth is that there are lines. There are people that have the mindset like you, that as long as it's funny, it's okay. And I think clearly the pendulum has swung far to the left where that they get offended about everything, right? What set off this current firestorm is Dave Chappelle's latest Netflix show, where he told a story about Jim Carrey. And he met Jim Carrey for the first time when he was filming the movie Man on the Moon, where he played the famous comedian Andy Kaufman, Latka from Taxi for you old heads. And he lived as Andy Kaufman for weeks on end while he was playing the character, that method actor nonsense, which I personally think is stupid. And he concluded this long story-like joke by then comparing Andy Kaufman or Jim Carrey existing as if he was really Andy Kaufman off-set and off-camera to trans people, right? And a lot of trans people got upset. And we do live in America where everything's called transphobic. USA Boxing has just said they're going to allow people born with penises to box against women as long as they've had the chop and they've taken the medicine. And I think that's absurd. I think it'll result in a lot of those born as women, and even saying born as women, people say, well, trans people are born as women, they just were born. No. The truth is that people born with vaginas, boxing against people born with penises is going to represent that actual biological women will be excluded from the championships of boxing.
And what they're not saying,
and basketball,
the bone density
soccer,
of a man fighting a woman's a different ballgame.
And swimming,
without
and all these
testosterone.
Things. Right, women deserve, those born women deserve their own space in sports. But if you say that, you're considered transphobic. So while I agree that there's a lot of alarmism, equally, Dave, and I have known Dave for years, he's very nice, but he has, of recent years, become very lectury in his comments, right? Very, very, very extremist in his politics, and very, he's refused to hear
or is he
other
pushing
people.
back against that council culture, saying that you're going to police comedy?
Well, I mean, that's the argument, right? That, oh, well, I'm not being a bigot or I'm not being homophobic. It's cancel culture. You know, also in the article we read, Ricky Gervais, he made this horrible joke saying that African Americans' use of the pejorative, the N-word that you just said over and over that I will not say, He said, well, that's cultural appropriation from white slave owners. Well, that's a horrible joke. But it's also a stupid
But it's
racist
true.
joke. No, it's not.
It is true.
Okay, the truth is that it's about...
We may not like it that a white guy said it, but,
Okay.
but it has some truth to it, Charles.
So the math, I think the math should be whether the joke is meant to be a joke sincerely. And sometimes Dave does not come across as joking. He comes across as bigoted in hiding it in a joke. I think him and Ricky Gervais are two of the funniest comics of the day. I enjoy both of them. I've never seen Gervais live. I've seen Chapelle live half a dozen times. And I thought he was funnier earlier, but look, he's going to offend people. Do I think he should be canceled over it? No. But I think it's okay for...
But political correctness has no place in comedy.
You've been calling for political correctness.
in
You've been
comedy.
calling for people to be canceled
But not in
your
comedy,
whole life.
Charles. Not in comedy,
You have most
Charles.
certainly called to cancel
Charles,
entertainers for
let me
being
say
racist.
this, Charles.
This is hypocrisy.
We cannot allow cancel culture
I don't want him canceled.
or political correctness to take over comedy.
I don't think it
if
should.
If we do that, Charles, then we no longer have comedy, period.
Well, that's not true.
It'll be a buried genre. It'll be so watered down and dry and insipid, nobody want to pay attention to it.
But right now, the current comedic paradigm, a white comedian who makes fun of black people generally, going to get canceled, right? A black comedian who makes fun of white people, everybody laughs, including white people. A homosexual comedian who makes fun of straight people, everybody laughs, it's great. But a straight comedian who makes fun of homosexuals, well, then he's canceled. And either we've got to get to the point where we don't have a double standard based on what immutable characteristic box people check. Or we've got to say, hey, we're not going to tolerate any bigotry, but that's across the board.
And political correctness does not apply to comedy. That's how you do it.
Okay, so what you want is it's perfectly okay to make racist jokes as long as they're funny to some members of the audience?
Let me say this to you. All jokes are not funny to everybody.
Okay.
When black comedians talk about how white parents raise white kids and compared to black parents, when black comedians make jokes about the size of a white man's penis compared to a black man, a lot of white guys don't like that. But guess what?
though? You make those jokes all the time, and I welcome the opportunity. We can throw them on the table and measure it out.
I wasn't joking when
we
I
can
said
measure
that,
it
Charles.
out.
I was pleading with you to get some help.
I know.
I was pleading with you to go to a
know.
doctor,
All you want
get a
to do is talk
prescription.
mess.
They have implants that can help you, Charles.
You don't want to measure
I don't want
nothing,
you suffering the
right?
underperformance that you've
just
been
want
dealing
to
with
talk
for years,
mess.
Charles.
Well, you're over there
I care about you, Charles.
short man. I'm
I
going to leave
care
that
that you
word
get some
out,
help,
right?
Charles.
Okay,
They have implants
okay.
now, Charles.
You know, it's sad. Everybody sees me on the...
Ladies
man,
and gentlemen, y'all pray for...
Quanell is so tiny.
Y'all pray
He's not
for
tiny.
Charles.
I'm just so big, and that'd be the same damn thing.
I'm an African brother.
Okay.
In this round, here's Charles Big Angry Adams.
Quanell, when America was torn about the confirmation of Justice Kavanaugh, we heard quite a bit about believe all women. That if a woman claims that she was sexually assaulted, that it had to be taken as absolutely true, period, because women should always be believed. Now, I've investigated sexual assault. I've investigated false allegations of sexual assault, both, and it's far more probable that it's real. I would say almost 96% of outcries are legitimate. It's a very small number that aren't, and they're driven by custody battles or grabs for money or mean-spirited. Now, in this day and age, because we have monetized victimization, I think you're seeing a far greater number of false claims. But you can't believe all women, just like you can't believe all men. Instead, what you should do is investigate all claims of sexual assault. And we're not doing that, especially in the wake of the defund the police movement, in a great number of sexual assault cases in America. But you get over to the United Kingdom, well, they go too far the other way, right? So right now, British police are investigating a virtual rape. Now, I didn't know what the hell that meant, right? So I had to look it up. And it's not sexual harassment online, right? It's not, because that would make sense to me, or threats online, or threats to rape online. Instead, in the Metaverse, that Facebook thing that I didn't even know was still around, people use, that goofy crap that Mark Zuckerberg came up, I guess to afford that big bunker he's building in Hawaii. But it was a woman whose avatar, 16-year-old girl, whose false persona was raped by the online persona of other avatars. So no human contact. So now the police are investigating it as a sexual assault. In fact, here's the quote from a senior officer. There is an emotional and psychological impact on the victim that is longer term than any physical injuries. And that is justifying this absurdist invest. So now, next time you kill somebody playing Call of Duty, is that murder, Quanell?
Charles, this detective who's investigating this place, the police department that's conducting this investigation, they're crazy as hell. They have completely lost their mind, dear brother. How in the hell do you rape an avatar? When I first heard about this, I mean, and you sent me this about let's debate this, you made my head spin. How in the hell do you rape an avatar, man? If that's the case, then everybody that commits a murder on Grand Theft Auto is on their way to jail.
Because I've stolen a lot of cars and killed a lot of cops on Grand Theft Auto.
Exactly. So everybody committing crimes on Grand Theft Auto, they should go to jail. Those who are killing people, like you said, Call of Duty, they should go to jail. At what point does the political correctness stop?
Right.
This is political correctness gone amok, and these people are crazy as hell to do something like this. If that's the case, if you play the role of raping a woman in a movie in Hollywood, well, you can be prosecuted for that because she could turn around and say, you know what, I really believe I was raped. Even though we played the role and I agreed to it, I was sexually assaulted. But we got to investigate that. This is madness.
Well, what I thought was most crazy is this officer trying to suggest that this woman having her avatar raped was more painful than women that actually endure physical sexual assault. And now we're entering a brave new world, right? There is very soon in the future going to be sex robots. And so she was wearing a virtual reality headpiece that if I have one at the house, I forget what Facebook calls it because, you know, it's goofy. I don't use it much. But at some point, we're going to be in bodysuits, sitting on circular platforms, floating in the air. And if somebody hits you or touches you or has sexual assaults you, you're going to feel it as if it's real. But we're not there yet, right? It was a headset.
So
it's stupid nonsense.
So what's next, Charles? We're going to start charging children for committing crimes on video games?
Oh, I don't know, man. But
what's
the thing
next?
is, we're just, especially the United Kingdom, which has no right to free speech, right? They've gone very antagonistic about political speech, but usually just directed at us evil white folk. But there is no right to a great number of things that we in America take for granted. But this is just absurd, right? We don't have police investigating actual sexual assaults. We don't have police investigating actual crimes. And it's the same way in the United Kingdom, that we are in this new paradigm where we're being encouraged to not expect a police response.
So let me ask you a
But
question.
if you get media attention, well, then they get off their ass.
Let me ask you a question. Should a woman that makes a false allegation of rape be charged with a crime?
Almost certainly.
But it's not happening.
Well, it happens occasionally, but it has to
Extremely
usually
rare.
only occurs when they have incredibly affirmative evidence and someone has gone to prison for a number of years.
But still, there have been a number of men throughout history in America that have been accused of rape who never committed rape.
Well, Emmett
And
Till.
You said something
How did Emmett Till's accuser never go to prison?
But you said something that's powerful, though. It happens a lot in child custody cases, more than people know and more than people think. But I believe that if a woman intentionally and knowingly lies on a man and he is found not guilty of that, then she should be punished too.
Well, absolutely. I think any false report to law enforcement should be punished. If someone loses their
But
freedom
prosecutors
over
are not doing it.
Well, because first of all, you have to have affirmative evidence of falsity. And the thing is, what you need to do in actual sexual assaults, not this online bit, because really, you are absolutely right? Like, there is nothing funny. You know, I grew up playing sports video games. Grand Theft Auto came out. If I'm playing a video game, I'm usually driving a car that I stole in Grand Theft Auto and shooting at cops, man. I'm not saying it's right, but it's make-believe.
Exactly.
Right? It's make-believe. But here, we're looking, it's like so many people on the far, far left are looking for, people on the far, far right, too.
Gone crazy.
They're looking for reasons
to be offended.
Not just to be offended, but to be a victim, right? We have monetized victimization.
Exactly.
Right. And
took
that's
the words right out of my mouth. And to make money from it.
Absolutely what it's about.
And to make money
it's
from
about
it.
saying, hey, I'm a victim, I want to sue. And I wouldn't be surprised if this woman, or this younger 16-year-old, didn't sue her alleged attackers. And it's crazy. We need to get back to policing real victim crimes.
But that's the world we're living in now. Political correctness has gone crazy.
There you go.
In this round, here's Quanell X.
So, Charles, there's a controversy here in America that's been started by the United Nations. The UN experts are sounding the alarm that America's first planned execution using nitrogen gas is inhumane and should not be used to execute a criminal who was convicted and found guilty for a cold-blooded murder where he was hired to carry out an execution and the jury gave him the death penalty. So they are now saying using nitrogen gas is inhumane. I have never been an advocate for people who commit cold-blooded murder receiving the death penalty in a very peaceful way. You didn't kill and destroy your victims and torture your victims in a very peaceful way. So by the same method that you use to kill innocent human beings, why should the American people or anybody care how well you die peacefully? You didn't let those who you murdered in cold blood die peacefully in their sleep and when they use lethal injection. But this is a weird case. This man survived lethal injection back in November 22. And so they're using a new method to try to kill him because it failed because they couldn't find the vein. But I will say this, what bothers me about the case of Charles is he's been on death row since 1988. Now you want to execute him in 2024. See, that's where the death penalty becomes a problem for me. To leave somebody on death row that long, to me, is cruel and unusual punishment. That is torture. I think if you receive the death penalty and there's concrete factual evidence that you committed this crime, you should not be allowed to be on death row longer than 5 years.
Okay, so it's kind of a multifaceted response. First of all, I don't give a damn what the United Nations wants to tell us in America what to do. And it's becoming a burgeoning issue, right? That this international organization thinks it can tell Americans how America should act in America, right? It's not just the UN, it's the World Economic Forum and all these entities that have no damn interest in the welfare of all American people. Secondly, though, when you talk about, violent executions like beheadings and shootings and whatever, I think absolutely there are monsters in this world that do such horrible stuff that they deserve to die. And I think that the death penalty exists because there are some people that absolutely need it, right? Despite my Christian values, I think there are those that absolutely need it. But I don't think we should have the death penalty in America. Because as a practicing criminal lawyer, anyone, even a lawyer with not a lot of experience, absolutely knows that the death penalty is disparately used to execute poor white people, but most importantly, black male Americans of all socioeconomic classes. And that's been the reality.
Well, I disagree with you on that one. Rich black men who commit crimes don't get the death penalty.
Oh, some do. You're more likely as a rich black man.
Rich black men escape the death penalty because they can buy justice also.
But here's the
Look
thing.
at OJ. OJ wasn't going to get the death penalty, baby, because he had enough money to help buy that dream team to keep him off of death row. I agree with you on this, though. The death penalty has been reserved for the poor. And
that's why it shouldn't exist.
And most of them are on death row strictly because they are poor and could not afford a high-powered defense team.
So OJ didn't get convicted of murder.
He was not guilty.
Not because he didn't commit murder, because he absolutely did.
He was not guilty.
Let me finish. OJ appropriately got found not guilty, and most white people will argue that he, because Van Adder, and that other, what was the racist cop's name?
Mark
Furman.
There you go. Yes.
That scumbag. They planted, that Barry Scheck made a very good argument that they planted evidence, right? And if the government has to cheat to get the conviction, the government doesn't get the damn conviction.
And that was a beautiful all-black jury.
But was it all black?
It was
I didn't think it was.
Jury. Yes, it was.
So
it was an all-black jury.
But at the end of the day, if they would have cheated, they would have probably got that conviction. And murderers should be found guilty, including O.J. Simpson. But if the government cheats, they shouldn't.
Guilty. Quit calling him guilty.
He's absolutely guilty.
He is innocent.
But at the end of the day,
a jury of his peers ruled him not guilty. O.J. didn't do that.
I'm always shocked when people
if it don't fit, it must have quit.
So you have for a non-lawyer, you have a tremendous amount of experience with our criminal justice system, especially working with families of murderers to safely turn themselves in so they're not gunned down by the cops. You've done this dozens of times, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you have seen firsthand how the process works. And knowing how the process works, how can you still advocate for the existence of the death penalty?
Let me tell you what, Charles. Man, there's some cats that are out here, they commit certain type of crimes, there is no redeeming them, brother. I believe this, and I don't care what your race is. If you a man that kidnaps somebody's child and rape that child and molest them and kill them, damn it, you should die quick.
But I don't disagree.
And we should not talk about you dying peacefully in your sleep with lethal injection.
What if you've got the wrong person?
But guess what, though? That's why you use DNA. And that's why you use the science that are at disposal right now and give them the best defense possible.
So what if...
Now, what we should do is this. In capital cases, let's be like the federal system. Let's increase the monetary budget for the lawyers that they can be appointed so they can get the best legal teams and the best legal minds in capital cases and state criminal cases.
So, but what if you have a Mark Furman or a Van Adder?
Oh, we have a lot of them already.
And then, I know you
We've had them for hundreds of years in America.
And what if they plant the DNA?
Now, I'm going to say this to you. That gets real deep right there, tricky too. I don't think a lot of cops in this day and age are planting DNA.
No, I think cameras.
Because cameras are everywhere, body cameras
and
everywhere.
They should be.
And then plus, if a cop get caught planting DNA today, he going to prison.
Yeah.
And they know that. So I don't believe a lot of planting of DNA is happening right now today.
The issue is that in a perfect system, the death penalty would make sense.
So what about a child molester, though, that admitted, yeah, I did it?
Well, I think a child molester should be castrated.
But wait a minute. What about the ones that's in prison talking like this when they go for the parole board? Well, if you release me, I can't promise I might not reoffend.
Well, I think they should be institutionalized.
Where?
Well, in a lockdown facility.
There's always some ground to hold you. If you talking like that you can't promise you're gonna reoffend. No problem.
I will tell you.
No problem.
I don't think
we're gonna get the hatchet. We're gonna chop it off, and we're gonna find the ground to hold you.
I do not think a pedophile can be fixed.
Me
I think
neither.
If you are physically attracted to small children, what is it they call it? What is it they call now? Minor attracted person. They try to normalize it. But in the death penalty, Quanell, we have too many examples. And the Innocence Project has kind of got off the rails. They have devoted now a lot of time because they had a lot of success. They're actively arguing for people that are clearly guilty, suggesting they're innocent, right? I would say Rodney Reed, but you would lose your mind. But he is absolutely guilty. But because, you get a taste for the victory. But the Innocent Project has exonerated people on death row who are going to die, but for them getting involved. And we have to get to the point where we recognize.
But they never probably would have went to death row if we had a federal-like criminal justice system to where in capital cases on the state level, one, they get real funding to lawyers to defend them. They get real funding to investigators to fight for the freedom and for the rights of those offenders. And also with now the technology and science, they can have some of the greatest defenses that they can ever have if we give them the resources.
Well, I
Poor
would
people going to death row.
I think it's not. We need to get past the death penalty in America. We need to improve our prison system.
If you like to rape kids, baby, I say die.
It's a much worse punishment.
You like to mug and rape women?
If you are locked in a box for the rest of your life, it's a lot worse than a quick,
the hell with
easy
that.
death.
You like to rape grandmama? Breaking out and rape grandmama? Die.
Quanell is right. I'll say it. He doesn't ever. When he talks about there are some awful monsters in this world that most certainly deserve death for their actions. The problem is that I have witnessed far too many people in my more than 2 decades as a criminal defense attorney that were looking at horrible consequences merely because of their race or their socioeconomic condition. And that is why I have spent so much of my lifetime doing so much pro bono criminal defense, more than anyone that I know. Because we as lawyers should all invest ourselves in trying to make our system as equitable and fair as we can. And it's really not. And because it's broken, we can't be executing people, even though most people deserve it. The fear of killing someone that doesn't, which we've already done in America repeatedly, makes it seem we shouldn't have a paradigm that it absolutely in any way involves the death penalty. This sexual assault allegation in the UK online, we've got, instead of conjuring crimes, instead of taking make-believe and making it something, let's actually investigate real crimes. Let's do that in America again.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with Dave Chapelle. Brother, continue to make us laugh. Continue to challenge that political correct crowd that wants to tame and wants to lock up real comedy in America. stand up strong and continue being the comedic man that you are, because you're a genius. You're one of the greatest. Let's not let political correctness take over our comedy in America, because when that happens, how far else we're going to go to the left? We've already gone too far as it is. Now, for the police investigating the rape in the UK, Lord have mercy, why don't y'all get off y'all lazy, tired behinds and go investigate some real rapes? How in the hell you going to investigate somebody raping an avatar? If that's the case, let's lock everybody up committing crimes on video games. Now, to those who like to commit crimes and go to prison and get you 3 hot meals and get dental health care from the taxpayers, and we pay for your laundry, and we pay for some of you to get sexual transitions, operations, etc. The hell with that. You like to kill folks? You're going to die. I'm cool with that.
That's it for the Face-Off on Fox Soul. We'll catch you next time.